Everyone's favourite subject at the moment is track limits, and we've asked some questions on our Twitter feed, on our Facebook, and it's really just throwing it out there to see what you think race directions need to do in terms of track limits. So, does F1 need more clarity in terms of track limits? Yes. From the race that we've seen on Sunday, the inconsistency of information passed through to teams seems to be the talking point that everyone is bringing up on social media. Now, a lot of the time, the teams are briefed before the weekend, and then as we've seen last season, there was a lot of changes in regards to track limits just before qualifying, which for me personally I think is the most annoying thing about race directions decisions in terms of track limits. They are telling the drivers, okay, on a Thursday, this is what you need to do in terms of track limits at turn 4, etc. And then come qualifying, they'll go, okay, you can just leave that, you can do it. We've seen it at Imola last year where Variante Alta, I think it is, the downhill, and they were running wide under the curve before the exit. That was getting chalked off in practice, and then come qualifying they were allowed to do it. Now, things like this revert back to Sunday's race with Lewis Hamilton going wide and running under the track limits 29 times at turn 4. There was no issue with that in regards to what he was told. Red Bull told Max Verstappen the exact same thing, and he was doing it. The whole point of this is there needs to be a precedent set from the start of the race saying this is what you are allowed to do, and you can't change that midway through a race. Now, Verstappen's overtake was on the outside, and he did overtake outside of track limits, so he did the right thing given the position back, but we weren't. It's such a thing where you're looking at it going, if you had have done this earlier on in the season or early on that race weekend, making it crystal clear, none of this would have really happened, and it wouldn't be such a talking point. The talking point would be how great of a race it was between the two best drivers in Formula 1. It's one of those things that will always cause a bit of debate no matter what side you're on. So if you're a Verstappen fan or a Hamilton fan, there'll always be an argument to be had, and I think the clear thing is that we need to have a race direction sort of precedent set from the start of the week, that the teams who are the number one sole purpose of this need to know this is what you're allowed to do and this is what you're not allowed to do. You can't change it mid-week or mid-session even for an F1 weekend. It just looks a bit unprofessional. I've seen a lot of people posting about what could they do to make it better. Gravel traps, yes. I've seen walls. I was like, okay, that might not work, but I think gravel traps are a thing of the past in terms of how tracks were. Yes, they were, you knew not to go near them, but in terms of safety, gravel gets on the track. If someone goes wide, it's one of those things where you look at the overall picture, and personally I'm a fan of gravel traps that they set out the limit and sort of barrier basically to where you can go on a track. So you can't take these risks and you know where it is, but something needs to be ironed out for people to not create such a stir on social media after, because we had such a brilliant race and it's kind of been overshadowed now by something that becomes a bit political and should have been fixed at the start of the weekend basically. So yeah, that's just my thoughts and some of your thoughts that you've sent us on Twitter. We'll be doing more polls throughout the week on the build up to the Imola race, so yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and I will catch you next time.